You're listening to Barbell Logic, brought to you by Barbell Logic Online Coaching, where each week we take a systematic walk through strength training and the refining power of voluntary hardship.
Welcome to the Barbell Logic Podcast. I'm Scott Hambrick. There's Matt Reynolds, and today it's Question and Answer Thursday. Matt's eye's still messed up. It's a week later.
No, it's not.
And he's still...
day. And look at all these shadows on my face.
His eye looks like it's wearing a turtleneck. It looks like it's uncircumcised.
That's what it does look like. There's a giant foreskin around my eyeball right now.
Guys, if you're listening to this show, I'm going to assume you like it. And if you don't like it, hey, beat it. But if you do, go over to Stitcher or wherever you like to get your podcast, Google Play, and leave us a review. You know, you can listen to us on Spotify.
Yeah,
which is something I've been doing more and more because I could play that on my Sonos stuff and
There's a
whatever.
kid at my front door. Hold on, I'm going to put him on the podcast. Hold on.
Okay. Listen to this. Here's a review from Stitcher. It says, "Simple, hard, effective. The podcast is just as effective as its training methodology by being simple to understand. It hits hard against the common knowledge of the day by effectively and systematically approaching the hows, whys, and whats of strength training. A must listen for all who train and want to get stronger. Come for the strength, stay for Scott Hambrick's voice." I think that's a good review. Who was it?
It was a little girl. This little girl, poor little girl's eyes sit right next to her ears. I feel bad for her. So I said, "Skedaddle.
You beat it. Get on." Here's a review. The Hardcore History of Strength Training podcast.
Ooh, have you listened to Hardcore History? We talked about this, right?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, it's good. I like him. Go ahead. Don't go on it. Nope, don't do it.
He's such a boomer.
He is a boomer.
Yeah, he's like...
But he's never cut me in line at, like, Cracker Barrel, so...
he would.
Well, I know, but he hasn't yet, so it's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, there are some nice reviews. Thank you guys for doing that on Stitcher. I appreciate it very much.
That was the whole review?
No, it goes on. It goes on. He says it's all pretty American, and from time to time they tend to go overboard with the locker room talk. But look past that, and you got yourself a podcast you recommend to the next random person that says hello. Hey guys, nobody's having more fun than us. If you don't like fun, I don't know what to tell you. Go talk to your aunt.
Somebody asked about their shrinkage, and they're worried about it. Like, who else are they going to ask that to?
Right.
Somebody's got to be honest enough to answer that question for them.
Barbell and Strength podcast. That's not locker. What?
I know, right? Listen, first off, we're clearly the most sophisticated barbell and strength podcast there is on the internet. Have you heard those other guys?
I have not.
About true meat. No, me neither. True meatheads, though.
Yeah. I don't know what they would do, but I'm on like 47 other podcasts, and there's less locker room talk on those. You can check that out. You can follow us on Instagram, by the way. You haven't done that in a while. Go follow Barbell Logic on Instagram, and you go do that.
Let's answer some questions. What do we got? You got some good ones for us lined up today?
Joe says, pro tip.
Tip.
Yeah, that's kind of what your eye looks like right now. He says, "I don't have a question, but I've got a pro tip that listeners might appreciate. After training for a year and a half in a blank fitness kind of gym, I recently moved into a place where I can have a garage gym. I bought a bunch of stuff off Craigslist. So here's the tip. If you're buying stuff secondhand, bring extra cash and ask if they have anything else they want to unload. I went to buy a squat rack from a CrossFit box that was remodeling and ended up with a rack, 220 pounds of bumper plates, a Rogue Prowler, and a Latina.
A Latina?
No, I added that part. For $320.
I've been looking for those on Craigslist for years.
And he said, I also went to buy a pair of iron 45s off a guy who also had pairs of 45 and 25 pound bumper plates.
Yeah.
And picked up those for a few extra bucks. So yeah, man, you should always have a little wham, a little walking around money, because you never know.
We've talked about this before. Cash is king. It's important. You hear those stories. Dave Ramsey tells a story of him. I forget what he bought, a Jaguar, I think, in his book, where he shows up with there's a Jaguar that's worth, I don't know, $50,000, and he buys it for like $28,000 cash because he has the cash, and he shows them the cash. He's like, I got 28 grand. This is what I got. It's all I got. It's $100 bills. And people kind of get weird when they see cash, but like in a good, like kind of a good way for you. You can use it as leverage. And so that's what this guy did. So yeah, nice job, man.
Yeah, I bought a Mercedes E420 like that one time.
Did you really?
Yeah.
You just showed up with...
Well, a guy, my accountant called and he said,
like a brown paper bag.
This guy is, he's going to lose this car. like he's behind on the payments. And I think I paid $9,600 for this car. I think it was $9,600, and it was worth a lot more than that. I mean, the guy paid $60 for it. It was a 97.
I mean, that's how I bought my Tundra, man. I've got that's big, nice Tundra, which gets a solid 9.2 miles to the gallon.
Ridiculous.
But same deal. I mean, the guy had like a $750 payment on it a month. Got married, used to work on the oil rigs, and then couldn't afford it anymore. And I was like, I'll give you this. And it was way under, but like he needed the cash. So nice to buy stuff not on debt, right?
Yeah, I don't need any debt.
Yeah.
It makes me a little ill.
I don't want to be a hypocrite. I still got this mortgage, but we're paying her off as quick as we can.
Good. Aaron says, I've been training seriously for 2 years and I've competed in 4 strength lifting meets. I'm 35, 5'9", 190. His best squat's 450, best press 200, deadlift 500. He has 2 little girls, 5 and 3, that enjoy watching me train and helping by loading the 2.5-pound plates, etc. He said, I've developed a training slogan for myself. It's barbell hard, dad harder. I've realized I'm not just training for myself, but also for my kids, etc. Well, good job, man.
Nice job.
That's heavy too.
Yeah, he's strong.
That's heavy. He says, my question for you guys is, as dads, how have you seen your own kids grow with parents who dedicate themselves to training? Have you seen any carryover to their schooling? Do they show any interest in training, etc.? 0.
That's not true. You've got you're one of your daughters has shown a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So, and I'm kind of the same way. I think the reality of it is my 9-year-old daughter thinks it's really cool, is into it, wants to hang out in the gym while we're doing it. Because she's 9, she's still a little girl. She puts bands she hooks a band over the chin up bar, and she does a whole bunch of pull ups and stuff, and she tries to participate. The 14-year-old couldn't care less about this thing. And I mean, like she wants to. The 14-year-old is at the point where she cares about her looks and wants to look good, and she'll do some stuff. And she certainly doesn't sort of go to the hot. She doesn't lean into hot yoga. The 14-year-old, she knows what she needs to do. She knows she needs to squat and deadlift and stuff, and she'll do some of that stuff. But she's not really interested in training.
My oldest one trained fairly consistently last summer, and but then has laid out of it. Needs to get back into it. I think she likes squatting maybe less than me. So she's built like me. It's no fun. Zero fun.
Long legs. Yeah.
And as far as it carrying over to their schooling, I mean, we don't go to school. We don't care. No.
Yeah. One of the problems I have with my 14-year-old, I think I've said this before. I don't mean this in any sort of weird way. She looks like a professional CrossFit athlete. My 14-year-old does.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the way my wife looked when she was 14, 15, 16 years old. My daughter is actually probably more muscular even than my wife was as a teenager. But she's got like boxy broad shoulders, and she's just jacked.
Yeah.
She's like walking around looking like Stacy Tovar, and you're like, fucking, just put on more clothes and like don't go to church and let boys see you. That's like So like I don't know that she needs to train yet. So I mean, she could.
Of course she does.
She gets some mental benefit from it and all those things, but I don't want to be Tiger Woods' dad either and shove it down her throat. So
I think I think mine are very proud, particularly of their mom, and they hear them brag about that. I was talking to the oldest one day, and she said, I talk about her future mate. I call him Dave.
He's got a name.
Yeah, she's not dating anybody or anything like that, but I'm just like, what do you think Dave will be like?
Why don't you say why don't you call him Magnus or something, so you sort of set that standard as like it could be an Icelandic like strongman.
Yeah, she just needs to marry somebody.
You just assume it's not
nothing crazy.
That.
Let's just somebody eats biscuits and gravy.
You don't want
for
to
breakfast.
set the standard too high for yourself.
Just Dave. And I'm like, what do you think Dave's going to be like? And she's like, well, he needs to be over 6 feet tall. She's like 5'8".
Yeah, she's fairly tall. Yeah.
And I'm like, gosh, I don't know what the real numbers are, but hun, that's like 1%-3% of the population. I mean, that's not a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, if you find a good dude and he's 5'11", might not close the deal.
What are you going to do?
Might probably not close the deal. And she says, yeah, and he really needs to be stronger than mom. And I'm like, oh shit, come on. Like
you're in trouble. Yeah.
Like 6 foot and,
yeah.
can
we
press.
have a girl that goes to our church and she's like 6'5", No shit. And she might have some of that.
Marfans.
Yeah. And she was telling my wife the other day. She was.
Is there a lady that's 6'5" that doesn't have Marfans? I'm not being funny.
Who knows? Maybe. Like you see some like college Division I basketball girls that don't have that. They kind of have a look to them when they have it.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of has that look. But anyway, she was saying that she had a boyfriend now, and she's like, he's taller than me. And I was like, God damn, you're 6'5". And I asked her, I said, how tall are you? She's like, I'm 6'5". I was like, man, that's a small talent pool, man. And she's like, I got a date. And I told her, I was like, one of my VPs, Nikki Sims, is pretty tall. She's like 6 foot tall.
She's like,
she won't date anybody that's shorter than her.
Hey, listen.
Can you imagine me and Nikki Sims? Listen to me. I know you're listening to this. How'd you like to be 6'5"? And the talent pool is only guys that are 6'5" and above.
Hey, is your young friend? Is she a good gal?
You're gonna set her up. She would be good for Kurt.
That's what I'm saying.
Asking? She and Kurt might make a good couple.
Baby girl, I got one that's 6'7", and he's strong. He has the strength of 10 men.
And you guys are like kind of equally Asperger's, so it would work.
Kirk's not Asperger's at all.
No, I know.
No, he's a man. Kirk's a good guy.
He's a great guy. I love it because I remember seeing him coming down to the, he did our training camp with Brett McKay years ago, and he was so lanky. And then Brett had that book signing. Did you come to that day?
I wasn't able to.
So he came. Yeah, he had a book signing, and Kurt went to that, and he was just, he's just gangly and goofy and tall, and now he's just
best guy ever. Change a flat in the rain for you.
He's a behemoth.
Super nice guy. Hey, let's make that happen, Matt. Let's make that happen. Let's say
I'll tell you this: that guy. There's no doubt that Kurt can protect his family when he has a family. When the day comes when he's got a wife and some kids.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Mark,
modern day warrior.
Mark says, I understand that since proper lifting belts don't store energy, they can't make you stronger to lift more weight. Yet PRs with and without belts on squats and presses are drastically different. This implies they support the muscles. It doesn't. That keep your body rigid for proper form. When PRs without the belt goes up, it signifies those muscles are getting stronger. Wouldn't this happen more effectively when not training with the belt?
No, not really.
No, listen. They don't support the muscles that give your muscles something to push against.
Yeah.
Much like pushing against the barbell.
Yeah.
They don't support your muscles. They give you something to push against. He says, thanks. 99% of me knows belts are not cheating, but that 1% needs some logic.
We have a handful of these questions.
Yeah.
Same thing about shoes and stuff. People like, you'll get the same thing about shoes. Like, boy, I just feel like I should just not wear shoes. Like, I've never understood this idea of like belts and shoes are cheating, but barbells with a ball bearing,
yeah,
are not. Like we can do that. We can use bumper plates. We can man. At some point, you just go like, hey, it's okay.
Yeah, Mark, you're 100% right. If there's a guy that can pull 500 with no belt and a guy that can't pull 500 without his belt, the 500 no belt guy is a stronger guy.
Sure.
But we don't really care about that. Like, because the guy that can pull 500 with no belt, he could probably put a belt on and pull 535.
That's right.
One of our friends, Clint Case, you guys can go follow Clint. He's out on Instagram. He pulls heavy, never, ever wears a belt. Not at meets. When he's squatting, when he deadlifts, he never wears a belt. Konstantinov, KK, is famous for not using a belt. Sometimes he would, but there's videos out there of him pulling over 900 with no belt. Yep. Do whatever you want. It's not cheating. I guess it's an aid, but it's not doing any work for you. It's still on you.
It helps teach you how to set that Valsalva a little harder.
Yeah, you wear shoes to support your arch.
Torso. Yeah.
You wear shoes to support your arch, and you use a bar with the correct diameter so that you can actually grip the darn thing. And I think this is in the same sort of category as those. So don't worry about it too much, man.
It's kind of funny that question came in. I actually caught myself today. I did I had a daydreaming session for about 10 minutes today about like what would it be like if I got stranded on a desert island, and would I train? Not would I be like, hey man, I'm pretty strong because I can do all this body weight stuff, but would I like look for big rocks to pick up and things like that. You know,
Coconut
know how I
logs
even-
like Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, I don't even know how I got on this. I mean, like, but with nobody else, just me.
Right.
You know, like I was all by myself, and I was like, what kind of shelter would I live in? And like, would I go look for big rocks and like try to do some makeshift things that were kind of like weights and be strong, prepare myself for when I was rescued? Or I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. I kind of got caught in that, but
What did you
you know,
decide?
we have the advantage of shoes and belts and barbells and incremental plates, and so we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. So what did you decide?
Yeah, I think I would. I think I think that as I am today, as a guy who's been in strongman, so I've also not just lifted barbells, but I've lifted stones and cars and weird shit. I think that I think that I would understand the value of strength and what it would be for literally that kind of stronger is harder to kill sort of thing. Be like, yeah, I think it's important that I started thinking to myself, like, there are things that I've done on, it's just, without going way down on like sort of a rabbit trail. The things I've done on vacations and stuff where I like have physical sort of things that I've done where I'm like, I try to walk a little further or do something that's a little harder physically each time, and I kind of count, and I'm kind of a numbers guy. I thought like if I had a big stone and I was like shouldering a stone, I'd shoulder it like right side, left side, and like as time went on, I would count how many times I would like shoulder a stone or pick up a stone, and I get to the point where I would like lift a stone, and this is kind of what I got to thinking about, like 600 times or 700 times, because at some point if you've been out there a long time, you're like, well, I lifted that stone 100 times today. The next time you do it, like, well, I got to lift it more than 100. You don't have incremental weight, so you got to do more reps, you know? And then you're like, at some point, you're like, do you lift the thing for 500 to 700 reps in one day and be like, yeah, it's, you know, I just kind of worked out all day and just kept lifting this thing. And
Depends on how much food you have on your island.
right, it's true.
I would want some sort of a yoke or something because I need to squat and I need to pull something because my back, I'll have back pain if I don't.
Yeah. You've never done a stone, right? Have you ever tried an Atlas stone?
No.
Man, we got to get you. You're actually made to do an Atlas stone because you got long legs and a kyphotic back.
Yeah, I'll just deadlift the bar. It's fine.
You're likely to be good with an Atlas stone, actually.
Yeah, I'll just pull the bar.
There is literally is something that's sort of like, I don't know. It's very like it's just.
It's old timey.
Yeah, there's just something
there's
satisfying about
it.
picking up a big giant rock and putting it up on something.
Right. Chad says, "Hey guys, my name is Chad." He says, "I wonder if I've reached the end of my NLP. I'm 5'10", 190 pounds, and my last recorded numbers are squat 3x5 at 365,
That's real strong.
deadlift
You probably
5 at 350, bench press 3x5 5x3 at 235, press 5x3 at 140. These are my best numbers, but several times I've missed reps at these rates, at these weights. Any advice to keep driving progress?"
Yeah. MED series.
Yeah,
Man, you're probably at the end of LP.
You are.
You're certainly close.
you've done very well.
You know, and again, I think one of the things that we brought out in the MED series is that is there ever a time when you're not a novice and are an intermediate? No.
It doesn't go click. No.
Yeah, there's a transition period. And so, you know, you've got that kind of Wednesday light day you can do, and then you start kind of adding volume to Monday, you start adding intensity to Friday, and you start making steps.
Yeah, Chad, go listen to our podcast. I'm going to look it up again. I think it's called Programming for Dummies, What to Do When LP, there it is. It's episode number 208, What to Do When LP Stops Working. You can listen to that. Of course, listen to the MED Toolbox episodes. There are 5 of those, plus the 8 that Reynolds is doing, and the 3 that I have coming. And if you can't figure it out, by golly, it's time to get your credit card. Go to barbelllogic.com and join. Enough.
Yes.
Hey, congratulations on those numbers. Those are really great LP numbers
Yeah, you're strong,
for a 5'10", 190 guy. Over the next 18 months, your weight's going to creep up to 205, and you're going to squat 405 for 3x5 probably, and just prosper. Well done, Chad. Good job.
Which I've never done, by the way.
Huh?
That's stronger than I've ever been. I've never done 405 for 3x5.
You haven't? It's just because you haven't, because
No.
you won't do any, like you hate doing anything.
Yeah, but I mean, like I did 405. I think I did 405 once for like a Jesse Marundi memorial thing. I did 405 for 11. I think
there
it's
you
the most,
go.
something
If
like
you can
that.
do it for 11, you can do it for 3x5.
No, I'm sure I probably could have then. I can't now, but I could probably do 405 3x5 on a box.
What's the most 225 bench press reps you've done? Like the combine?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I did 42. I did 40 something.
That's stupid.
And we did that. Remember, I've told this story. It's funny. There was a time at the high school I was at where 7 of the coaches could bench press over 400 pounds raw.
That's stupid.
At the same high school. And the guy that was the head football coach, his name was Coach Wickwar. Great guy. I can say his name because he's a good dude. Like everything about him. I had a beer with a buddy the other day. Actually, one of my clients at Block came in. There's this little place literally down the road in my neighborhood. Went in there, and Wickwar's ex-wife was in there. I didn't know who it was, and we got to talking. Like I was talking to my buddy, and she was like, "I heard you guys talking, and like I used to be from this area," and I was like, "Oh, I was a teacher there." And
she
like,
walked
"Well, my
up,
ex-husband was a
like,
teacher there."
Your eye.
No, my eye was okay back then.
Okay.
And but we did that. We would do the combine test, and then one time we did a strong gym. We had I think we went to like rush week for the frats and sororities at Missouri State. And they had something like that, and you could get a booth or whatever, and we did a 225 bench press for reps test for a membership, and we did a 500 meter row on a CT row, which is awesome to watch people vomit beside
right,
which is what happens, and we gave the person that had the highest number of 225 reps and the person that had the fastest 500 meter row, guy and girl. So we gave 4 memberships away and did that. So we would do that too, just to see if they could beat us, and we would keep track.
I did it for 2 10s and an 8 the other day.
Yeah.
Jonathan says, I'm a longtime listener and celebrating my 1-year anniversary of following these methods here. Thanks for all you do. Thank you. He says he's 30 years old, 5'8" and 205. Current PRs are 325 for a double, 232 and a half bench for 2 triples, press 4 at 155, deadlift 385 for 5. He says, I've been waiting for months to send a question worth asking. Yeah, send your bad ones. It hasn't stopped anybody else.
No.
He says, I'm on a 4-day split, and my volume portion, I just do the regular lifts, such as 1 heavy deadlift for set for intensity, followed by squat for 5x5 for volume. Is there a specific point where I should switch to supplemental lifts, like box squats and rack pulls?
Yep.
Yes.
This is where we also promote the MED series. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, when it stops working, that's when so the first step there is you have you're on a 3-day whole body split, and
he's 4-day split.
Well, I'm saying though, for normal people, they're on a 3-day split, and they've got kind of a heavy day and a volume day, and then you go to a 4-day split, and you got a heavy day and a volume day. And when that slows down and stops working, then at some point you got to bring in the supplemental lifts. That's the next step, and you start with the more specific ones, and you work your way over time to potentially a cycle of more general to more specific. And so, yes, you might be at the point there, but your numbers aren't.
I doubt it.
Huh?
I doubt that he is.
Well, because his numbers aren't very good, right?
Yeah.
So if his numbers were 60 pounds higher on the lifts, like, would our answer be different?
Maybe, yeah. He says the specific wording here, I'm actually listening or reading this carefully, and he says, is there a specific point I should switch to supplemental lifts, like box squats and rack pulls? And my answer would be never. You only add them, right? So if you got a 4-day split, you're on a 4-day split, and you're squatting 5x5 one day, and you're squatting a heavy set of 5 one day, you're probably not. You probably wouldn't be well served to ever get away from your 5x5s, in my opinion. You need to lengthen the cycle, and then that will give you some more slots, and some of those slots should probably be some of these supplemental lifts at some point.
Sure. That's a fine answer. I'm okay with a lot of my people on 4-day split doing the main lifts once a week, and a pretty specific supplemental lift another time a week.
It'll work for a while.
So rather than a 5x5, like you could on, instead of that 5x5, you could do tempo squats to get the volume in.
This is very interesting.
Instead of maybe at 5x5, I might go 5x3 at tempos to still get the volume, and then still do your regular squats on intensity day.
So what's simpler? We have Reynolds rules.
Sure.
So which is simpler, to lengthen the mesocycle and maybe add a supplemental lift. You go from a 1 week cycle to a 2 week cycle. You go from 2 slots to 4 slots for squatting in that time, which is simpler, lengthening the cycle and adding a supplemental lift, or leaving the cycle the same and dropping the 5x5 and replacing it with
I don't know. I mean, I think they're similar.
It's hair splitting.
I think that if you change the lift to a very general lift, like I think if you went from your 5 sets of 5 normal squats to a front squat, that's obviously more complex and it's not as specific, unless you're an Olympic lifter or something. But for people who are just trying to get generally strong, I think that's a bad move.
Yeah.
And so it depends on the lift. I've got sort of a list of lifts that I would call pretty specific. For a deadlift, going from a deadlift to a 1.5 inch deficit deadlift and doing that for my volume work, like I don't think that's a big change. I think that's perfectly acceptable.
Right.
I think going to a 2 week cycle from a 1 week cycle to a 2 week cycle and adding the deficit deadlift is one of those slots. I think it's perfectly acceptable also.
Yeah.
So I don't know that, certainly we can kind of argue.
And you don't need to lengthen your cycle unless you can't recover in the course of the cycle you have, So we'll go through.
Nor should you add the supplemental lifts.
Right.
For the same reason, right? Like if you're able to do the intensity day and the volume day with the main lifts and you're making progress, like I wouldn't change anything at all.
No. We'll go through my steps where I find the problem, troubleshoot the problem, sort through the toolbox, select a tool, find a place to insert it and implement it, and then devise a test to see if it worked. We'll be doing that some more in some of these future shows, and you can listen to that and give you an idea about how to proceed. Yeah. He says, number 2, I'm having to schedule my own nutrition. He says, Scott, before you say I can't afford, he says, before you say it, I can't afford a coach right now. We have a family of 5 where my wife stays at home. I work 2 jobs, and coaching won't fit the budget right now. Is there a general template for macros, calories to balance weight gain, weight loss, and maintenance? You cannot balance all 3 of those things. You probably can't even balance 2 of those things.
Sure.
You can go listen to some of the shows we've done with one Miss Jillian Ward and get a few ideas from those things. But in general, it's just like budgeting your money, right? You need to record everything that you're eating right now so that you know what the heck it is you're doing, because you don't even know what your calorie income is. Yep. So you need to go record that for a couple of weeks so you know. And then in that course of that couple of weeks, you need to watch your waist circumference and your body weight so that you can determine what your current calorie intake or income is doing to your waistline and to your body weight. And then you can adjust the calorie intake after observing what it does to your waistline and your body weight and the weight on the bar, by the way. So it's just a matter of counting everything you put in your mouth and then adjusting those things in order to get the outcome that you want, whether that's performance, decreased circumference, higher or lower body weight, whatever that may be.
Yep.
It's just that simple. It's simple to do. It's miserable because it takes eternal vigilance.
Yeah.
But that's all there is to it, man. He says a general template for macros. Eat your 200 grams of calories. Start at 200 grams of protein. Maybe 300, 350 grams of carbs, and maybe 80 to 100 grams of fat, and just eat that for a couple of weeks and see what happens. See how your body behaves with those macros, and then adjust them where necessary. Probably pull the fat off first. Is that what you would do?
Yeah, I mean,
if you're getting too much,
we tend to lean towards high protein, relatively low fat, and adjust carbs to get the calories that you need. I mean, it's an easy way to do that. It's like your protein needs to be between 200 and 250, and your fat, especially if you're trying to lose some weight, probably needs to be under 100 or 110. You can go from 110 to 100 to 80 to 90. You get down to about 80. You can't really keep pulling fat. At some point, you got to pull the carbs if you're trying to lose weight.
Yeah. If
you're trying to gain weight, you keep your fat around 100, 110, and you start bumping up the carbs from 350 to 400 to 450 to 500 to 550. It's really that simple. At some point, if you're trying to lose weight, you got to pull both carbs and fat. And if at some point you're trying to gain weight, you're going to probably have to gain. You're going to have to give or eat additional carbs and fat. That's really what it comes down to. Protein's high all the time. Fat we don't want to have in excess. carbohydrates fuel the workouts that we do. It's that simple. So, yeah, that's it.
It's about record keeping and making good decisions based on the feedback.
Don't you think most people that do well on this, they kind of eat the same thing for breakfast and eat the same thing for lunch? It might vary a little bit for dinner, but like they're eating the same thing for breakfast and lunch and, protein shakes / snacks. And then dinner might vary a little bit, but not very tremendously.
When I've had the best luck, I'm just super boring.
Yeah. I like some variance in my dinner, but if the goal there is for me it is at this point in my life is kind of weight loss and trying to lean muscle sort of stuff, then if I stick even to dinner, if I stick to like lean meat and relatively low carbohydrates, so like half servings of carbohydrates and lots of veggies, it works pretty well for dinner. You've got all sorts of variants there. You can have fish or beef or, chicken or whatever you want, and a bunch of veggies and like kind of a half serving of rice or potatoes or pasta or whatever, and it works pretty well. If you're trying to gain weight, it'd be the opposite. Maybe you have a double serving of rice, pasta, potatoes. So.
Here's an interesting one, Matt.
Yes, let's hear it.
Alternatives for bench press. David says, hello, Matt and Scott. I have a vertigo condition, benign paroxysmal positional vertigo.
Can't lay down.
Making it difficult to do bench press. Yep. The condition is
sleep. I always wonder a question like that. I'm like, how do you lay down in bed? Does the guy sleep in a recliner?
Gosh. I don't know. Like I had vertigo like March and April of last year. If I laid on my right side or tilted my head to the right when I was laying down,
I remember.
It's just terrible. But I could had that. I could adjust my head or my neck angle or whatever and find a way to sleep. Hopefully he can get some rest. I don't know. He says, what might be some good alternatives to the bench press? I'm a 60-year-old male. I've pretty much completed LP. I'm 5'9", 200 pounds, squatting 235 for 5, low of 285, press is 148 by 4. And he said bench was 200 by 5.
It's fine for his age.
I stopped it. Yeah.
Man, I would just, part of it is probably just how much you can, I would have like, I would do incline dumbbell is probably what I do first. Incline barbell is fine too. Incline dumbbell I like a little better. And I would start with like a higher incline dumbbell or barbell, and I would kind of like lay the thing down until you get to the point where you're like, too much vertigo.
As low as you can without the spins, What are you going to do?
If I had to cut one of the 4 lifts out, the bench press is the thing that's getting cut out. Not right? Agreed?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, if somebody's like, I can press or I can bench, which one do you want me to do? I would probably have them press. I mean, it's close to a toss-up. If the guy can press with no problem and bench press the laying down on the bench, like, the room's swimming.
Guess what it is.
I think about like when I've been drunk and you're on the bed and you like have to put a foot down on the floor. You can't put both feet on the bed. You're really like one keep.
We call that throwing an anchor.
That's right. It's no fun. I don't want to lift that way. So I'd kick up that incline. Rep Fitness makes that excellent bench press. That's just like the one we like, but it's got the you can incline it.
Yeah,
you can buy that from Rep Fitness, and they're great. And
the seamless one.
And by the way, we don't make $1 off that if you do that. But
they call it seamless or crackless or something like that. Yeah, it's
great.
Yeah, that's a good one. No, but back to your thing about it's like anytime somebody's bench goes up, their press goes up, but the opposite isn't true.
I don't know. That's true.
It's not. Hey, listen, it ain't as true.
See, here's why. Let me tell you why I'll disagree. It's very rare that you meet a person who's done a lot of pressing but has not bench pressed.
Right.
But frequently you'll meet people, especially powerlifter background people, who have bench pressed a ton of have not pressed in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I start pressing them, their shoulders get healthy and their bench press goes up. I mean, that's my argument.
Okay.
So
fair enough. Yep.
I think they drive each other. I think it's fine. Obviously, the angle of the incline is going to dictate whether it's more specific to the press or more specific to the bench press. The lower the incline is going to be more specific to the bench press, and the higher the incline, the press. And so, man, I just do what you can.
This gentleman, let's say you can't even incline. I'd put chains on your neck and have you dip.
Yeah, I would too. By the way, why would you put chains on his neck instead of doing a dip belt?
Because I want it to lean him over so he uses more chest. Yeah, I want to.
Have we ever said that on the podcast or on our YouTube videos?
I don't know.
Hey, listen, a heavy chain around your neck or a couple heavy chains around your neck is a way better on a dip than a dip belt.
Yeah, it just ends up being
a dip belt is fine.
It just ends up being a tricep press down. That's all it ends up being. You use a lot more muscle mass when you lean over. So David, if you can't dip with added weight, you can kind of move your feet around and cross your ankles and bend your knee, and you can kind of do some stuff that makes you lean over more when you dip. So go for that lean over. Don't try to do it upright. And maybe even some cable flies or pec deck stupid machine.
Whoa, heresy.
I mean, if you can't lay down on the bench because you're in a barf or you feel like the world's going to collapse, then what are you going to do? But the dips are pretty darn good. Dips are pretty good.
Agreed. That's actually good. I wouldn't have thought of that. Dips are a great idea for him.
Yeah, I've got some ladies I'm having do push-ups just to get the volume. And if they have some bands or a way to do some, not a lot of ladies can just knock out weighted
pull-ups, push-ups,
weighted dips. If they can get assisted dips.
Oh yeah, where they put their knee in it or whatever.
Yeah, I've had pretty good. I've had pretty good luck with those. Rick says, "Hey guys, love the show. Thank you." He says, "You've talked some about how an obese athlete's form changes as they lose excess body fat. But for someone who starts as an average-sized novice, what are the most typical changes you see in form mechanics as muscle mass increases?" That's a good question. They start squatting high. That's the first one I see. Their legs and their butt are bigger, and they get more of a bounce on the bottom, or it's tighter in the bottom of the squat, and they continue to try to feel, I don't know. Like, let's say they squat 165 from their first session, and proper depth feels X tight.
Yep.
Well, when that guy gains 40 pounds, X tight will be 4 inches higher because the guy's legs are going to be much bigger around. His butt's going to be bigger. They tend to, well, there you go. They tend to squat high.
But if you do it right, you can compress the spring better there.
Yeah, mechanics are better.
If you really learn how to push the knees out. It's the same thing with the bench press, right? So as your pecs get bigger, the angle of the humerus to the fibers on the pecs get better, bigger arch, bigger chest, shorter range of motion. Like, all those things are better. Press, the forearm is bigger, the bicep is bigger, so they push against each other and compress at the elbow.
Yeah.
The tricep drives into the lats, same sort of thing. The only thing that really isn't helped by gaining weight is deadlift. And certainly if you weigh 150 pounds, go from 150 to 205 will make your deadlift significantly better. But going from 205 to 260 might actually make it worse.
Yeah,
because it's harder to breathe and get set up and set your back and get air in, and the belt is kind of pinching everything off. And so that's why the heaviest deadlifts of all time have been done by 242ers. The kind of 220 to 275 weight class in powerlifting is like those are the freaks on the deadlift. You get to 308 and super heavies, those guys don't deadlift as much as the guys are in the mid to low 200s, and it's because I think their bellies are in the way, and their quads. They have big giant thighs, both muscle and fat.
Yeah.
And when your quads are really giant, like, no matter what you do, even if you drag the bar up your quads, the bar is in front of your midfoot. It's forward of your midfoot if your quads are big enough, and especially if you've got a bunch of muscle and some fat on your quads. So yeah, those are the things that you see as the weight gain goes up.
Yeah, he says specifically about mechanics. That's kind of interesting. I was telling one of my clients the other day this, and we'll see if your experience jives with this. I see that people really struggle with the bench press from 185 to 230, 225.
Yep,
it's just really tough. But then it seems like they get to that 225 and then get to 245 pretty fast.
Yeah.
The mechanics improve. Their chest is thicker. The pec angle of attack in the humerus is bigger. The range of motion is truncated a little bit. The tonnage is significant. Like they just hit a sweet spot, and it progress with it just gets easier.
Yeah. But by the way, for our 28 women, they're the same too, from about 135 to 155. So getting from 105 to 135 is just like, holy shit, it's so hard on the bench press for women. And they hit those big plates, and they go from 135 to 155, and they figure out how to like lock the thing in and get the arch right and like get set up nice and tight. And 135 to 155 isn't a big deal. Over 155 is a really strong bench press for a female. You don't see it very often.
Yeah.
So
145 to
agree.
165 press for dudes seems to be not too bad.
Nope, same thing.
Something about being
and
a
same
little
thing for
thicker.
women. Going from 105 or 100 to 115 for women on the press is like, if they can, they can get up over 105. A lot of times the press sticking point for women is like 65 to 75. You notice that? Like 65 to 75 is a thing for women. They just like struggle in that ballpark. They get their press over 3 digits, and it takes off. And of course, like you're a little bit jaded because your wife presses almost 200 pounds, so it doesn't. You see ridiculous stuff all day, but it seems to make a big difference.
Yeah, but there seems to be at least for those pressing motions, there seems to be a little point where the mechanics get a whole lot better, and then things move right along. Jaden says, "I'm 21, 6'1", 217. Sounds pretty good." He says, "I've recently switched to a 4-day split after finishing LP. Squat at 370 for 3x5, bench 195 for 3x5. See?
Yep.
Same
thing.
Press 145 at 3x5.
Yep.
Deadlift 455 for 1x5. I can't add weight once a week anymore to the deadlift. Should I switch to alternating halting deadlifts and rack pulls, or should I change my rep schemes to 2x3, then 3x2, then 5x1, etc.? Also, why don't you guys ever talk about halting deadlifts? P.S. Scott is my favorite podcaster. I love how honest and witty he is.
Look at that guy.
It's refreshing to hear someone who wants people to be stronger, wiser, and more financially stable. Thank you both for everything." Why, thank you, Jaden. God dang it, I want this guy to get really strong. Hope he has a lot of kids.
So answer his question. Help this guy out.
Bro. I assume you don't say anything about doing volume work on the deadlift. You say you're on a 4-day split, but you don't say that you have like a volume day here. So if you don't have a volume day, well, I'd do that. I'd have you pull about 80% of that 455 for 2x5 or maybe even 3x5 on your volume day, and then attempt that 460 for a 5. If you miss it, who cares? Increment up the volume day next week and attempt that 455 again. If you miss it, who cares? Increment the volume up again and try it a third time. You won't miss it a third time. And if you do miss it a third time, you have a legit psychological barrier, and you need to do some heavy rack pulls to show yourself that you can lock out something heavy, and might need some deficit deadlifts or something to show yourself that you can get it off the floor, but otherwise that'll be okay. If you already have a volume day, you need to lengthen you probably need to lengthen the training cycle for the deadlift. You need to add more stress. How about that? Yep. You need to add more stress. One of the ways you could do that is lengthen the training cycle so that there's more work done ahead of your PR attempt. Or if you're already doing the volume, you can attempt your 460 PR, get what you can get. Get a 3, get a 4, get a double. Who cares? And then do some back offs at somewhere around 8% less for maybe a couple of triples or even 3 triples, and then see how that treats you the next week. If you can't recover from that, there's a potential you couldn't. At that point, we would need to lengthen your training cycle, at least for just the deadlift. Doing pretty good here. It's funny, though. We were just talking about that, and I swear to you guys, I had not opened this email and looked, but he is right there on the cusp of those two sorts of thresholds for the bench press and the press we were talking about. So if you're starting to get frustrated with those, don't. Chances are they'll pick up here pretty soon, and you'll go full steam ahead on those for just a little bit. One more.
Let's do it.
This is from Stan.
Hey, Stan.
Stan is my client. He says, an interesting conversation with a physical therapist I went to see yesterday for my lower back pain. I want to share this with you so you can, A, play it back to the block team for discussion, criticism, and validation, or maybe even discuss it on the podcast. To make it clear from the outset, the PT guy was sympathetic to strength training for the general population. He did know the mechanics of the squat, overhead press, bench press, deadlift. I doubt it. 3, I have no idea whether the curriculum and practices of physical therapists in France would deserve the bad reputation you give it in USA. That guy, at least, was credible. Here are the 3 takeaways, he says. 1, my back pain is not due to a strain or an over-elongated or partially torn muscle, but to a contracture, which I guess that he's probably having some...
I don't know what that is.
My guess is that it's a cramp.
Okay. Spasm.
Yeah. Oh, the PT in the French Wikipedia describes a contracture as basically a cramp or spasm that does not pass away but stays for hours or days. The hypothesis is that I started losing control of the lower back of the bottom, resulting in a reflex spasm. The contracture also reduces blood flow in the muscle, making recovery even harder. Yes, I encounter it all the time. Hey, listen to this, particularly in alcoholic clients.
Which might be this guy.
Which I'm not kidding. I had a client and she was like, oh, I have this back pain and blah, blah, blah. I kind of start digging in. I'm like, oh, you're drunk. She's dehydrated all the time. And it happens over and over and over again that people either get dehydrated just through not drinking enough fluids and so on, or that maybe
drinking enough water. Fluids are good.
Yeah.
Because whiskey's fluid.
So drink a bunch of water. But this jives with me. So guys, we talk about moment and shear on the spine, but the fact is there is no moment. There is no shear on the spine because the spinal erectors contract and put the spine into compression and take all so there are no shear conditions on the spine. It's just like in a tense a steel tension reinforced concrete beam. You tension the cable up inside it, and it compresses the beam, and it prevents it from undergoing shear, and it keeps the thing from falling, the bridge from falling down. Same darn thing.
You can have moment, and there is some moment on the segment as a whole.
Yes.
There isn't really shear.
Right.
On the segment.
And so our bodies have have developed over the millennia, so that the failure state is that the spinal erector spasm to protect the spine. If your body's super fatigued, or if your muscles, I'm making the air quotes, think they're going to get injured, they will spasm to protect your spinal cord.
Yeah.
So often when we're in very, very, very deep fatigue, they'll spasm to protect the spinal cord. If you're dehydrated, they'll protect, whatever. That's the failure state. And so, we need to train you and get you stronger so that you don't go into that fail state, or get you hydrated. 2, to cure this. Okay, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting to hear what he says, because I just gave my opinion. What do you think about that, Matt, before I go on?
No, I agree completely. Yeah.
2, to cure this, the PTA massaged quite forcefully into the contracted area. Probably makes it feel better.
Fine. Yep.
Fine. But,
What's wrong with that?
Yep. Make me practice deep and slow stretches. No, that will make it spasm more frequently and more deeply.
Yeah, probably. With the one exception of, I really like a traction in the back.
That's not a stretch, and I agree with that.
Which is not a stretch, right? So
hanging from the rack.
That's right. And better than just hanging from the rack, I like buying those ab straps on Amazon and putting them in your armpits and hanging. So you get those slings, the ab straps, and you put them up in your armpits so that your arms don't take the tension, but all the tension is in your torso.
Right.
And you just hold on to the straps with your hands
and relax.
And you just
shoulders.
traction and just take a deep breath in and slow breathe out. And just get long. That seems to work pretty well. But like taking time to sit on the floor and stretch and touch your toes for 30 seconds, worthless.
Yeah. And if you stretch that thing and you're not dehydrated, they're just going to spasm worse. Promise you. Probably. I've experienced it myself. I've seen other people do it. 3, he says, this led to a discussion on how stretching should complement strength training. Oh boy, here we go. 3.1. One should not stretch immediately after strength training sessions. I agree.
Yeah, that may be true, but here's what we know. Stretching before the strength training sessions is worse.
Well, here we go. There is documented evidence that the stretching can lead to injury for strength training people that train.
Always decreased power output.
And always
so we
always
know
decreases
that
that.
you definitely don't want to stretch before because there's decreased power output. And then 2, after shows that like the benefit of the stretch in the moment lasts. It's such a short time period that by the time you wake up the next day, it's not like you have more flexibility in your back. That's never happened.
Oh, this shit drives me nuts. 2,
Well,
the lifts. This is good pod. Thanks, Stan. Really. 2, the lifts overemphasize some movements and body positions over others. Case in point, to protect our lower back and keep the spine in a neutral position during the squat and deadlift, we contract the lumbar muscles very much, and we only contract them. So adding some gentle stretching on non-training days can compensate and help avoid injury and add mobility. I don't think that's true.
No.
The only thing any muscle does is contract.
That's right.
And to try to artificially lengthen that, like if you go read up on that sliding filament theory of muscle contraction, and then if you learn that model, and then you look at what stretching does, and if you've ever had tendonitis, I think you would realize that you would never ever want to stretch the tendon or try to hyper lengthen the muscle fibers.
Right.
Like if you actually understand how the darn thing works, and by the way, the sliding filament muscle contraction theory is only a theory. It happens on a electron microscopic level, and we really don't know precisely what's happening. But it's clear to me that stretching that assembly, that mechanism, it can only cause damage. And then if there's any stretching,
what we know is that the shortening of the muscle fibers,
that's what they're made to do.
Tissue, like the stretching of those things, the extra lengthening of those things doesn't lead to a more powerful contraction or a reduction in injury in the contraction. Like we know that for a fact, right? And then we also know that again the stretch itself is so short lived that what you do today on a Thursday is no longer going to be present on a Friday. Like muscles don't really get more pliable. You know what gets more pliable? Tendons and ligaments
that rupture and require,
which is not really what we want to make more pliable.
No.
Yeah.
He says thinking about it, and Stan's a thoughtful guy. I appreciate him sending this. And he says, thinking about it as I write this email, I find a good point here, at least in the sense that they are not easy to dismiss. 1, our type of training makes the muscles contract very strongly. It makes sense to occasionally help the muscles relax with gentle but deep stretching. Well, the only thing that can actually help your muscle relax is to sever the nerve supply to it or give you some curare derivative drug that a paralytic.
You say curare?
Curare, right.
I don't know what that is.
Well, like they give you a paralytic when if somebody's going to do surgery on you, and they paralyze you so that when you cut the muscle, it doesn't leap.
Sure.
Stretching the muscle doesn't help it relax.
Right.
It just doesn't, Stan. It doesn't. Go read up on that. Go read up on that sliding filament contraction theory.
Yeah.
And you'll see that it's just not what happens.
Yeah.
If you actually lengthen the muscle fiber, it will rupture. It can't lengthen beyond X. It can't, or it will tear.
Right.
We also practice a limited set of movements. Complementing those with a few gentle but deep stretches makes sense to ensure all joints work all of their possible range of motion angles. Have you listened, Stan? I'm going to choke the shit out of you if I ever get to France, which I'll never do, so you're lucky. We have done roughly 75,000 episodes about exercise selection and why they use the longest effective range of motion and the most muscle mass and so on and so on and so on and so on. And we've talked about the accessory lifts that we'll choose because perhaps we need a pulling motion with the chest, and we'll use the barbell row, because we've got a few things that we need a little help with about 6 movements, the 4 big ones, the barbell row and the chin.
Yeah, the 4 big ones plus the lats basically does the deal.
I mean, what are we not doing? Like you chew food. Okay, we got the mandible. Okay, we got that going. Yeah. You know, I don't know. Like I walk, so my great toe was doing a little work, you know.
Yeah.
I grip the bar. Like I don't know what we're not taking. I don't know what we're doing. What do we lack? That's a legit question. Let me know what we lack. And as far as all the possible range of motion, I don't want to train all the possible range of motion on my shoulder, by the way.
Yeah, remember that for every degree gained in mobility is a degree lost in stability.
Right.
This is super important to understand. We want stable joints. Do I want them to be able to move through a full range of motion? Yes. But who defines what that is? Well, it's the needs that we have of the joint in nature. Right? I don't need to just be able to squat in my hips, ass to grass. Unnecessary.
Excessive degree of freedom about the hip joint would lead to a
Instability.
trip and somebody falling and breaking their hip.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Excessive degree of freedom about the shoulder is going to lead to shoulder dislocation, impingement, and so on. They are not flexibility is not a virtue. If you can tie your shoes and wash your hair,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, stuff beyond that, it's just not virtuous. But you know, these skinny, hypermobile ladies, just and dudes, take this thing they already have a gift for, if it's a gift or a curse. Right. And then they try to teach other people to have this same proclivity and then claim it's virtuous. And it's just fucking not. You know, one of my good friends, he's 6'1" and he can palm the floor. And he's like, why can't you do that? You know, I'm so much more flexible to you.
Who cares?
I'm like, sit down by me. And so we go sit down. Hell, he's 5 inches taller than me. We're sitting. He's all torso.
Right.
His shoulders 6 inches closer to the ground when he leans over them. I'll never be able to do it. My torso is 3 inches long.
Yeah. Right.
So he's like, oh, I'm so mobile. I'm like, no, you're not. You have like 3 extra vertebrae. You look like a fucking cave bear.
Right.
I have a 37-inch inseam. Oh, my gosh. So listen.
Stan,
there's another question answer show.
Good pod.
Hey, Stan, thanks for sending that. I think people are interested in that stuff. And I really get tired of this cult of stretching.
Yeah.
It's, geez. I really don't understand why everybody's so worried about it.
It's cultural, man.
Yeah, I don't get it. But, you know, if you guys are interested in this stuff, you know, don't take anything we say for a truth. Go and double check it by all means. Go read up on how on the various theories on how muscles actually contract. Go look up some stuff about the elasticity of these various tissues, and you can kind of piece it together and figure out what actually happens when people so-called stretch. And most of those things aren't effects I'm interested in having.
Nope.
What else, Uncle Matt? That's
it.
79 minutes of this, I think.
That's great.
All right. Hey, guys. That's another Barbell Logic podcast. Thank you so much for listening to our show for all of these years. We're getting close to 300 episodes.
Crazy.
That's crazy. Send your questions. We need them to questions@barbell-logic.com. And
you're only like 3.5 months behind now.
That's right. Yeah, send those questions into questions@barbell-logic.com. And also, if you want a form check or want a little taste of what our consultations are like or the programming, and just get a idea about what the Barbell Logic online coaching experience is, you can email experience@barbell-logic.com. And one very pregnant Nikki Berman will assist you and give you an idea about what it's like to use our services, and hopefully set you on your way. And it's no obligation, so you can take advantage of that and then just keep on training on your own. Or like the Pusher Man, first hit's free. Right. You can come back to our corner and we'll keep dealing. So We'll talk to you guys Monday. Thanks.
See you guys.
It's old timey.